Cool, man. Well, here we are. We finally did it after, I think, multiple trials and then one cancellation on my end. By the way, I apologize for that.
No worries.
We finally have done it. This is the interview, the Rikki Rockett interview. Thank you for coming on the Golden Hour podcast, man. And nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. And let me say this, you are at fault for me using an Olympus camera. Okay?
Oh, nice.
I tried the Olympus and I got to tell you, it is, and I have some high-end stuff. I have a Komodo.
I know. I want to get into all that. Yeah.
But my Olympus, when I take that on the motorcycle to do a vlog, it's just so damn reliable.
Yes.
That it just looks great, right?
It does, man. It's small and the lenses are small. It's fairly affordable as well. I love the color on it. The stabilization is really the most magical thing on it, for sure.
It's like best in the biz, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
it's a great stills camera too. I use it occasionally to take pictures and stuff. So,
yeah.
Micro Four Thirds is kind of long in the tooth these days with all these full frame cameras, but hey, it still works.
Yeah. Well, it makes for smaller lenses and
that's about it.
Very
Smaller
reliable autofocus and all that kind of stuff. So
yeah, they're supposed to. I just saw on Twitter today the Olympus will be announcing their next generation camera next week. So hopefully we'll see a new Olympus EM1, next generation. So I'm looking forward to that. So I'll let you know how it goes.
I left Fuji, my X-T3, for that Olympus.
Oh, wow.
And it's just because the Olympus has slightly better autofocus.
Yeah.
It's just a little bit, and I tried them both. I didn't make a video about it, but
yeah,
I did a bunch of different tests, and I was like, and I love the Fuji color, love it. Right?
Yeah, me too.
And the form factor and all that stuff. But the Olympus won. I mean, it just did.
I know it's odd. The Sony A7 IV that just came out today. I don't know if you saw it in the news, but that one will probably be a big hit. So yeah, you should watch Gerald Undone's video if you haven't already. But
I have not watched it. I've tried with Sony twice now, and I kind of go to camera conspiracies guy a little bit.
Yes.
So if you want green skin and you want to be a lizard person, go Sony. Yeah. No, I'm gonna upset a lot of Sony people. But I always say that, people are always like, well, you can get Canon colors with Sony, but nobody ever says I want to get Sony colors with a Canon. So,
yeah, you're right. It never goes the other way. That's so true.
Yeah.
And you've got the C70 and the Komodo. I did a video comparing both, and I decided to go with the C70. If I could, I would have both. But is that your viewpoint as well? You like both?
You know what? I mean, what's going on right now is that I have a showrunner that I'm working with. I do all my own videos, but we pitched a show to the networks, and
cool.
We decided that maybe we'll just do a documentary instead, because it can be longer. It can be, we can do a deeper dive into some of the urban legends and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I keep holding out going, I would probably use the Komodo for that. Not saying you couldn't use the C70, you could. But I talked my buddy into a Komodo. So I would have him be the cinematographer, and then we would have an A and B Komodo. So it's kind of like, I kind of don't want to get rid of it, but then Christmas is coming up.
Yeah.
I'm sitting there going, I could turn that into a couple of dirt bikes for my kids. And,
that's true. That's true.
I mean, but the C70 is so good. It's just such a good camera.
It really is. I mean, I'm using it almost on a daily basis now with my new job. I'm doing a lot of courses and just long form content where I shoot for like 2 hours straight. And it's a great tool for that. Great autofocus. Color science is great. But I am working on a new channel. I could tell you about it when we're done recording. But
okay.
But yeah, how did you discover my stuff? How did this happen? Because you just slid into my DMs on Instagram.
I did. Yeah.
I was like, wait a minute.
So
I was like, the drummer from Poison, like the guy. This is Rikki. What? It was
You know,
mind blowing.
A lot of YouTubers don't know who I am and couldn't care less, and
Dude,
some
I'm a
do.
freaking rock. Like, I cannot stop listening to 70s and 80s rock. I'm like one of the biggest fans. So the fact that you are a fan of me is like amazing because I'm a fan of you. So this is awesome.
Well, this is the thing. I think that, and I don't know you personally until today a little bit. You come off as a nice person, and I
Thanks,
think
dude.
YouTube is just littered with so much polarity and
Mm,
a lot of people just trying to like kind of stake a claim by being snarky, and you just don't seem to rely on those things. You seem
that's
to
true.
just like go like, I just want to do some really good content and make people happy with it and teach people things, and I think that's awesome.
Wow, thank
So
you. A high compliment. Thank you very much.
it's easy to watch your videos, and you know, you don't feel like, oh my gosh, here it comes. He's gonna rip on something I love. You know, you don't feel like that. You might, you know, you feel like you're gonna come away from a review
Sure.
having a more enriched viewpoint, for lack of a better way of saying it. So,
Thanks, man. Wow. So
yeah.
kind words. Did you discover my stuff with Indie Mogul? Is that where you first saw it, or did you see the older stuff as well, or what?
The Kinotika channel came up in
Yeah,
one of
yeah.
my searches for one of the cameras that I've been through so many cameras. I should have a camera channel, but it's such a littered space. I don't think I would do very well.
I don't know,
And
man. I
I'm
think
not,
you'd crush it. You
well,
got everything. You got all the pieces to the puzzle there. So
except I feel like sometimes somebody will like say something technical and I'll go, yeah, I didn't know that. You know what I mean?
sure, yeah, yeah. That's where the script comes in. I would script things out and just read a teleprompter, but it is odd. For some reason I can't remember people's names in real life, but I can like spew out all the specs of a camera. Like sticks to my subcranium for some reason. I don't know why, but
My
uh
mind is a junkyard as well for things that don't matter.
yeah. I really like. I think this is a great show to have you on to talk about things that you don't regularly talk about, and I can sense that you do have a real passion for filmmaking and YouTube, and I really want to get to that. But the elephant in the room, if you want to call it that, is you're the freaking drummer of Poison. Uh, can we discuss that at all to get started to kind of give people an introduction to who you are? Yes, again, I repeat, the drummer of the band Poison, Brett Michaels, and Ricky, you started the band together. Is that true? Is that
We
correct?
did.
And
Yep.
you're
We
from
started.
Pennsylvania, right?
Yeah. Yep. So we started the band in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, and we played. We were young, so we were like, God, you know, just fresh out of high school, right? And so we were not, you know, the age there is 21 to, you know, go in clubs. Most
Yeah,
of the clubs, there was underage clubs that you
sure.
could, you know, once in a while, certain nights of the week. But to make a living doing that or really get somewhere, so we started to, you know, play as much as we could at some of these clubs, and we'd play in Maryland because in Maryland
Mm.
the drinking age was 18. Um,
I did not know that. That's funny.
Yeah, I don't think it is anymore, but at the time it was 18. So everybody would go across the state line, go party in Maryland, and then, yes, drive back, right? Or stay at somebody's house if you were smart.
Yeah.
But so we started playing all those places. But it wasn't enough. So we started to rent like VFW halls and skating rinks and like make our own
Wow.
shows because I was watching these punk bands do that, and I
Mm.
went, if they can do it, we can do it. So we took like this punk rock approach to making our own flyers, setting up our own gigs because we were not part of the mainstream there. You know what I
Mm.
mean?
Yeah.
Because we weren't just playing covers and all this stuff. So we started getting opening gigs with Kicks and bands like that. But we met some people that were said, "Look, man, the West Coast is what's prime right now for this kind of music."
Mm-hmm.
You know, Van Halen broke, Quiet Riot broke. There's this new band Motley Crue that just broke. There's
Yep.
this album coming out by a band called Rat. You know, and
Mm.
so we're like, yeah, we need to get out there. So that's what we did. We got out here and just started
Yeah.
to. We took the idea that like if we all worked at a restaurant, that within 2 years we would own the restaurant. You know, we had that mentality, and
Mm.
we just put all our focus into that and making music and promoting the band and doing shows and having a great show. And it paid off. We were on an indie label at first,
Mm-hmm.
and then we did so well on the indie label, which was Enigma, that Capitol picked it up. And
Yep.
then we had two singles. We had Cry Tough, which didn't do well. It was a horrible rotation, I'll call it, at 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 in the morning on MTV.
Uh-huh.
And then we did Talk Dirty to Me, and it started to take off. And it just really, and that was the song that really broke our band. And,
Yeah.
the rest is kind of history after
It's
that.
amazing.
Just tour after tour, tour
You were young.
video.
You were young. You were still a teenager or early 20s or what at that point? LA.
We got our deal. I was 23, I think,
Okay.
24 maybe, when we had got our first record deal. I'm the oldest one in the band, believe it or not. Not by
Nice.
much. Cece's
It-
like 6 months younger or something
okay.
like that. But yeah, it's not like this huge thing. I
Yeah, yeah.
think Brett is 1 year younger than me, I think. And Bobby's the youngest.
By the way, he completely surprised me on The Masked Singer. I'm sure you got a kick out of that if you saw that.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. The banana. Yeah.
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 So yeah, I mean,
Oh,
back in
that's
the
it.
that's it's crazy, man, a crazy ride. And again, this is a photography and filmmaking based show, and we like to talk about YouTube as well. So I do want to get into that with you, but back in the 80s and 90s, you had I mean, you were listing them like Guns N' Roses, Motley Crue, you guys, Van Halen. Like it was a really amazing kind of time in LA. What was it like being in LA, being surrounded by all these bands and kind of being a part of that? I know, for lack of a better term, because Motley Crue, being a part of that crew, if you will. Did you
Well,
become friends with those guys or not really? Was it competitive?
yeah, not with Motley because they were a couple years ahead of us, quite
Okay.
honestly. And the West Coast is very monkey see, monkey do.
Hmm.
And when by the time we got here, everybody was predicting that there was going to be really, really heavy rock was going to be the next thing.
Hmm.
And so they didn't really want to sign us. They said, "Well, we already have a Rat. We're like, well, we're not that
Yeah.
because we're a little more Aerosmithy than that, but we
Uh-huh.
sort of have this New York punk pop thing. We sort of have, it
Yeah.
just wasn't the same as what was going on out here. And so we really had to grind it because nobody really believed that we had what it took. And so we had to prove it by just selling out shows. And they said, you guys need to have a following. So within a year, we were voted biggest band in LA,
That's
and
amazing, man.
that's just because we promoted and promoted. We'd have lines around the block.
So,
We broke Wasp record at the Troubadour, and
wow. Yeah.
so we were just like all about just working really hard and doing whatever we needed to
Yeah.
do to get it done.
Was that a work ethic that you think came from where you're from? Like, was it different from the kind of scene in LA with these guys? Or you're basically doing like social media in real life, is what it sounds like.
Yes,
You were basically doing what you would normally do now on Twitter and Instagram. Putting things
exactly.
out, making content, but you were doing it with like sheets of paper and like handing it to people. I mean, I don't know what all you're doing, but like, who's the PR genius over there? Is that a combination of all you guys or what?
Well, yeah, there's a couple things to unpack here, and it's funny because this is why I think some music works well on social media and other music doesn't work well, but I'll get into that in a second.
Mm-hmm.
We had this girl named Deb Rosner who loved our band, and she was like a kind of a death rocker goth girl, but for some reason she really liked our band. She loved the glam aspect of it, and she loved Bowie and T-Rex and saw that in us. And a lot of these fanzines kind of picked up on that. So we
Mm.
did all these little fanzine magazines, tiny little print gothic rock things, and we kind of got embraced by that group at first, which is really bizarre. And it was because of her, really. But she just kept it going and kept it going. And so I saw like this, it started to meld these crowds. Like some of those crowds would come to our show and then they'd find themselves, and we created our own little scene. And to
Mm,
me, that was the most important part of what we did
it's
was that
amazing.
because when music, to me, if music can be more than music and it can be kind of a social movement
Yes.
for whatever reason, whether that's punk or whether it's Bono or whatever it is that move hippies, whatever moves the needle. I
Yeah.
think that's the coolest thing. And at that time in this town, it became a social movement.
Wow.
It really did. It was I don't care what music you're from,
Yeah.
what you liked, or what your preconceived ideas. Come to our show and you're going to have fun. That was the idea.
That's
And
freaking
that's where
awesome.
the nothing but a good time thing. Let's throw this in. We were like the Jeet Kune Do of music. You know what I mean? How
Yeah.
Bruce
Yeah.
Lee melded martial arts. Same idea. It was like, let's put these things together. Let's have this arena thing like Van Halen. Let's have this cool dress up factor like Bowie or the New York Dolls. Let's have this, no frills work ethic like Leonard Skinner. Like let's put all these things together and
Yeah.
just and see where it goes and let our audience pick us. Like let's
Mm,
not go, oh, there's that demographic or that demographic.
sure.
I don't believe in demographics. I think if demographics worked, every film would be a hit, right? So.
That's a good point. Yeah, totally. What you're saying is really poignant, and it's true to this day, and it's just shifted now to the internet. And you see now all these artists are basically writing choruses that have interesting, weird sounds in them, maybe some sort of dance to go with it, so that it goes viral on TikTok. Because if you can get a song to go viral on TikTok, you get a number one in the modern day. Like that's all people want is to go viral on TikTok. And so you hear it in the music now. It's like they put these weird sounds in it that could be used for a video of me putting what's the thing you put Coke, you put like a thing in the thing and it explodes.
Oh,
Mentos, Coke
right.
and
Yeah,
Mentos, you know. It's like you
yes.
want something that builds, and then boom, a big explosion, big like tension build, and then a hit. That way, people just make a bunch of videos like doing crazy stunts. But
Maybe
um,
I should write a Mentos commercial.
you
I don't know.
should. There you go. But MTV was so important, so crucial at that time, and Michael Jackson changed the game with his stuff. But I would argue that you guys also, the Poison, really were big on MTV. I would imagine. I wasn't there. I was born 1990, so I don't remember, unfortunately. But I love the
Yeah,
videos
you're
that I've
freaking me
seen.
out because I'm an old guy. Yeah, we killed it on MTV at that time. Um, that was
It
such
was it was YouTube. It was YouTube of that time, right? Like that's
exactly, and it was a scary time because we didn't know if it would work,
yeah.
and what would happen if it did. Like, did
Mm.
that make us like an MTV band? And we became like these MTV darlings, and it was like, is that getting in the way of the music? And it's like, well, if you buy the music and you listen to it, it's the same whether you got it because you saw us on MTV or whether we
Yeah.
weren't writing songs for MTV. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
We just did what we did, and
Yeah.
uh, but it's just so funny how people perceive things.
Yeah.
They perceive things in a skewed way
Mm.
a lot of times. So, but it was a magical time, and it was also. I mean, I wish MTV still had. There was no.
Music.
No, it's like somebody put up a meme like I don't know 2 weeks ago that said like, "Hey MTV, happy 40th anniversary! Thanks for the 14 years of music."
Yeah, totally, right? I guess the VMAs are still a thing, but that's about it, right?
Yeah, and I haven't been to those in a very long time. But
Yeah,
yeah, music
sure.
has changed. Unfortunately, rock has become, it's kind of like rock eats its young.
Mm.
Okay. I think people have been, uh, I don't know, it's a sort of a grumpy space these days. I feel there's a lot of
Yeah.
arguing.
Well, like
Like,
Machine Gun Kelly's trying to do something and he's getting chewed out for it, like I'm hearing a lot of punk coming back in the music, which is fun. It's kind of the Paramore kind of sound that's starting to become popular. I think it's nostalgic for the kids now, or people my age, it's nostalgic to hear like that kind of 2000 grunge sound, you know, but I
As
don't know.
long as it's organic, I'm happy. Like,
Yeah.
just give me organic. I love drums, guitar, bass, live show, somebody pulling their shirt off and sweating and just, I mean, just all that is very
Yes.
exciting, and it gets people to leave the house and engage.
Totally.
You're like when you're on stage, you're breaking down that fourth wall, right?
Mhm.
Because you're engaging with the audience. It's not just, hey, this is the fishbowl I'm in and I'm doing my thing and then I leave. It's like you're reaching out, and you can't get that in video. You can't get that the same way at this time, maybe eventually, but you can't get that virtually yet in any real meaningful
Yeah.
way.
Yeah, it's true. In the 90s when Nirvana hit, did you see a shift in music and rock and roll for you guys with the shoegazer kind of movement, if you will, you know, kids
Oh,
coming
yeah,
from
totally.
the divorced homes and just the kind of depression that seemed to happen in the 90s. It
You
just
know,
yeah, it changed the music.
it did. I remember we were in Mexico on my birthday. We were in Mexico City, and I don't drink much, but I was drunk that night, and they were playing Nirvana, and people lit up, right? And at that time, Nirvana hadn't really hit yet that much. They were starting to. They were starting to go up,
Yeah.
and I felt a different energy in the room. And I
Mm.
remember just saying to myself, "This feels different. This doesn't feel the same as other songs that have been hits. This is a social movement."
Yeah.
Okay, we
You're
talked
right,
about that
yeah.
a little while ago. So but I feel like after Poison came a lot of, and I'm not trying to say like, okay, we're, the quintessential 80s band and everybody else copied us. I'm not trying to say that. But there was a lot of bands that came along where people said, well, you should wear this and you should wear that and you should, do your videos like a little bit like Poison, but a little bit, there was a lot of, there
Yeah.
was copycats. I hate to say it. I
Of
don't
course.
mean
Well,
threw the
there,
baby out with the bathwater. There was some good bands too. Don't
of
get me wrong,
course.
but it became so overdone. We were already moving on. If you look at how we looked and how we sounded on Flesh and Blood,
Yeah.
and the bands that were coming out were still stuck in the albums we had done a few years prior. It
Sure.
was like, no, you're pulling us back. Let's keep
Yeah.
moving. Let's keep moving forward. And
Totally.
I wanted to continue to be creative. Now, grunge was left of center. It was different than
Yeah.
I think the direction we were going. We were polishing our sound. We were polishing that kind of
Mhm.
stuff. But we weren't dressing like we did on Cat Dragged In or any of those records. We didn't look like that anymore. Our stage show was evolving, all that kind of stuff. But so I understand why grunge came along.
Sure.
It needed to flush the toilet on a lot of really crappy bands. Unfortunately, we got thrown out with that bunch, but
Mm.
we lost our guitar player. We made a different record that threw our audience out and went, "What is this? And who's this guy?" It was a really good record. He's a really good player, but I think it threw our audience, so it was a perfect storm. It was
Mhm.
like, okay, Poison's finally did it. They are the last bastions to hold on to this. It really is time for Nirvana and stuff, and it was. So I said, I'm not going to do anything for a while. I got in. I started making comic books with my buddy. My buddy wanted
It's
to
amazing.
was a special effects artist, and he loved comic books, and he was a great artist, and I was a good colorist on a computer and a good storyteller. So
Wow.
we
I didn't know that
started
about
doing
you. That's
comic
really
books.
cool.
Yeah. So we just did our first comics came out with Maximum Press, Rob Liefeld, and then we started our own little distribution, and
That's cool,
you
man.
know, lasted for a while. It was fun. And then around 1999, 2000, Cece rejoined the band, and
Mhm.
we went, hey, let's go after this again. We put tickets on sale, and we were scared, going, oh my God, what if we fail? This is it. We'll never get another chance.
Yeah.
And it sold out the first show, and we're like,
Wow.
whoa,
There you go,
it's
my man.
still
That's awesome.
there.
You got that
So
core. You got that core, and to this day, you guys are still touring. I mean,
yes.
it's
So we
amazing.
got a second life. Yeah.
Are you coming to Nashville, or did you already come?
We are.
I need to be there.
Yes. Oh, yeah. No, I'll take care of you.
I would
My
love to see you.
my ex in Nashville, so I have a lot of ties to Nashville. I almost moved there. I have tons of friends. So yeah, our keyboard guy he's our side guy. He lives in Nashville.
Yeah.
Will Dowdy. Shout out to Will. Um, so yeah, so the tour's been postponed twice now.
Okay.
Okay, you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah, of
because of
course. The whole thing. Yeah. The whole COVID thing.
yes. But here we go.
Here we
We're
go. Cool. I'll be there for sure. I really want to just meet you in person and hang out, and
I'll hook you up.
we
Don't
can
worry.
nerd out about cameras. Maybe I could even do
Absolutely.
some. I could shoot some stuff for you or something. That could be
Yeah,
fun.
man, I'm gonna put you to work.
Yeah, let's do it. I'll put me to work. I'll do the old wear black and carry a ladder thing and just walk into the back. Um, cool, man. Well, I don't know. I feel like I could nerd out about rock and roll all day, but I think there's some other things I would love to discuss with you as well, which is your YouTube channel and your filmmaking passions and things like that. What sparked that, and when did that kind of happen for you, the filmmaking angle? I mean, you just mentioned comics and all that. I didn't even know about that, but what about filmmaking? When did this start?
About 16 years ago or so, I started making short films, and I never put them out. I did one film festival, did okay, and then I had my son, so
Yes.
that changed things. But when I was building drums, I had a drum company, and I did an interview for the E Channel, and the guy in the E Channel interviewed me in my shop, and he said, "Oh my God, the characters, this whole process, everything is so amazing. This needs to be a reality show." And I said, "Okay, let's do it."
Heck
And
yeah.
so he did this, you know, pitch reel, and we went to all the networks, and they didn't want to deal with music at the time for some reason. It gets expensive, the licensing for one
Okay.
thing.
Yeah.
Uh, but I started to get really, I went, man, I, I want to get back into video and back into this stuff. I was so into that. And what happened, you know? So I think later YouTube became this outlet. Like, where do I put this stuff? And I didn't start a YouTube channel until a few years ago. I
Hmm.
had it, but I didn't do anything. I just sat there, right? I didn't do anything.
Yeah.
And then I thought, well, I'll do stuff on the road. And I went the road. I was just like, where is my niche? Like, I'm talking to the camera, and it's like, I'm on this subject and that subject. And it's like, I'm all over the place, right?
Yeah.
So, and everyone's like, you have to have a niche. You have to have a niche. So one day we were in Texarkana, Texas, and that's where that famous hook hand urban legend came from. And it was real. It turns out that there really was a hook hand legend, and people killed in the car, a couple, and all this stuff. It just played out a bit differently than the urban legend. So I did a piece on it, and it started to get some traction. Not the kind of traction you get, but for me, that was getting YouTube traction. And so I went, wow, I grew up loving horror movies, scary stories, you name it. I just love that stuff, right? I've tons of encyclopedias here of all that kind of stuff. And I just always found it fascinating. And I'm like, urban legends are the best. They're the devil we know. It's like everybody has an urban legend. Everybody has a house they
Yeah.
dared to go into, or don't stand on the bridge at midnight because there's a headless horseman, whatever it is, right? So I just decided that what I want to do is chase down all these urban legends, not just across America, but across the world
That's
eventually,
awesome. Yeah, I love it.
and find out the truth. Like, where did it really come from? Like,
Hmm.
let's forget about like the goofy part of some of these stories. Like, let's dig a little bit and find out what is the substance to everything, right? There's
Yeah.
all this somewhere, even if it's this big a truth or that big a truth, there's some truth in all this stuff. So it made it completely fascinating for me because I don't, I'm not really a ghost chaser. I don't, I mean, I'll go to a ghost location or something, but I'm not somebody to walk around with EMF meters and sit in the house all night. It's just not really, I'll do it, but it's not really my
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
thing.
what you're referring to is your channel, and you have a show called Legend Tripping, and it's really cool. Like, and what's it's the reason it's a great topic for YouTube is that you have such a great built-in story for each episode. You start with a premise of like this is a spooky tree or whatever, right? And let's go find it, and you have to discover where it is. You have maybe a map or some general location. You got to find it. Once you get there, you've got the thing. You see if it actually is spooky. You read some history about it. You're really educating your viewers as well, and you do it all with your own style, your Rikki Rockett way, with motorcycles and tattoos, and it's awesome. Like it's
Thank
so
you.
it's a great way to keep it authentic to you as Rikki Rockett, but also for people who never even heard of you, they could stumble across it and become a fan as well, because it doesn't really have anything to do with poison. It's just a really awesome kind of topic to pick, and I think it's a great idea for a channel.
It doesn't have anything to do with poison, and sometimes that frustrates people. But the thing is that I
you're
mean,
you're more than just poison.
yeah, I mean, the, there's a lot of videos around the internet with me playing live, and it's
Yeah,
awesome production and all this kind of stuff. Like I'm not really going to recreate that in my garage. Now, I'm not sure viewers would necessarily want me to try to recreate that in my garage. Sometimes they just want the garage Ricky, but um, I'm not really an educator as far as drums. I'm not a drum teacher. So, to carve out a niche of drums on the internet didn't make sense for me. It was like, that's my job. That's what I do for a
exactly.
living. And I love that. I love what I do. I really do. Uh, but this is a hobby. This is a very serious hobby, but it's a hobby,
Hmm.
and it's one I like to share. And I got to tell you, man, YouTube is the freaking hardest thing I have ever done. I mean, I'm doing well on Instagram. I'm doing well on Facebook and
Yeah.
Twitter. But in terms of social platforms,
Mm.
it is hard. I mean, I've been doing it for years. I'm at 17,000 some subs, and I mean, it's crawling to try. It's whole hard to get subs,
Yeah, it
really hard.
really is. It really is. And there's a great book called The YouTube Formula. Have you heard about it by Daryl Eves?
I
Um,
have.
yeah, here, I actually have it. I'll give him a plug. This is it. The YouTube Formula. Great book. Daryl Eves, he's kind of the master right now. He's kind of the guru who wrote this book. He works with Mr. Beast, who's obviously one of the biggest YouTubers on the planet.
Yeah.
This book has really become my Bible, and I mean, other than the Bible, I am a Christian, so I do actually believe in the Bible. But my second Bible, so yeah, I highly recommend it. I don't know if you've picked one up, but
I do. I have it. He's done a couple online seminars, I know, and I needed to get in. I mean, I was looking. I didn't do any work on the Poison unboxing drum kit, and I didn't check it today, but it's over 50,000 views
oh, cool.
with no work at all. And it's like that. I mean, if I could, I don't know if it's because I unboxed or whether it's drums, or I'd have to do an unboxing of drums every day to get those kind of views consistently. Or because I've done other kinds of poison content, and it it hasn't hit. It just anytime I do an unboxing of drums, it hits hard.
What are you
You
referring
know.
to? I saw the Ouija board unboxing was the 2022 tour kit unboxing 2 weeks ago. Is that what you're referring
Yes.
to? Gotcha. Yeah, fifty
What's it
thousand
up
views
to?
there.
Fifty.
It's about to hit 50. It's 49,957. Yeah,
Okay. Yeah. It's gotten a lot of views, and that was a very off the cuff. I mean, I set up my R5 and just,
sure.
turned it on and went. You know what I mean?
No, I
I even
you have an
I even
R5
did
as
a
well, huh?
Facebook one. I'm sorry.
You
I'm
got the
sorry.
R5 also.
Yes.
That's a great B camera to go to the C70 for sure, and it's wonderful.
You know what? I like the image of it better than the C70.
Uh,
It looks so like smooth and buttery. The C70 is a little sharper, a little, and I've adjusted it. I'm starting to get it to groove a little better. But I did on my other channel, I have a Dirt Baggers. It's a motorcycle channel. Um, my buddy Rob and I did a educational video, and I used the C70 on the first one, which is a stopping
Uh-huh.
brake video, braking in dirt off road, and then the second one where we're riding in sand was done with the R5. And I think the R5 video looks better somehow.
Yeah. I mean, it's that
I,
full frame sensor, you know, you got great glass on there. I don't know, there's a lot to it. I mean, you get the C70 more than just image quality too. I mean, it's got, you know, the built-in ND, and it doesn't overheat, you know.
yep.
So, um, that's fascinating. How does that make you feel to say, you know, you do a Poison video and it performs really well, right? Like, you're the people in people's minds, they see you as the drummer of Poison, right? And
Yes.
you have to constantly kind of battle this. Like, with fame and success, you have all sorts of things that are great, but there's also potentially things that can be negative. What are some of the negative things that you've experienced with fame?
Well, it's like sometimes I've done some talks and people have been like, "Oh, what would you do differently?" or whatever. I don't know what I'd do differently, but I will say this to people that whatever your first record is, how you look, what you say, how you conduct yourself is going to follow you. It will become your cross to bear.
Wow. Yeah.
And you know, you know, people still look at the cover of Look What the Cat Dragged In that was 40 years ago or whatever it was. I don't even know anymore. It was in 1986, and like judge me on that snapshot in time. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
As a person, they'll judge me, not just the band. If they say I don't like the band, they sometimes they don't like me too, which is weird. People don't like me because of Poison, so that is a
That's
weird thing.
weird.
They
It's
already
like
have that judgment. Yeah.
people don't judge others based off of something they did 40 years ago in real life. Although we're seeing more and more of that on social media. People are pulling up
Oh, we
things that
are.
you said this 20 years ago. How dare you? It's like, I
Yeah.
was a teenager. What do you I was an
Yeah.
idiot.
Yeah.
I'm not condoning that. I'm not saying it was good, like, you know, whatever. I guess, you know, we could get on a whole rant about cancel culture, I'm sure, but
Oh, we
uh,
could.
why do you think I left LA? No, I mean, it's crazy, and I mean, you're in the thick of it over there in LA. I mean, there's a lot of crazy stuff going on right now. COVID really brought a lot of things out in our
It
culture that,
did. Our fan base, the Poison fan base, is a lot of very red states,
mhm,
and so there's, I see myself as a global citizen because we tour the world,
yeah,
okay? And I want to be friends with the whole world because I want to play for people all over the world. I don't like to get into these, nasty differences, and sometimes I find
yeah,
myself getting caught right up in it.
sure,
Um, but yeah, there's a lot of stuff. I live in a fairly conservative area.
mhm,
I'm on 3 acres, and I like my space and all that kind of stuff.
yeah,
And but I'm sort of progressive the way I think socially.
mhm,
Um, gay marriage and all that stuff. I don't care about those things.
sure.
Um, but somehow there's this whole new, and I don't want to get into politics. This could get really bad. I don't want to take this sideways.
No, 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 yeah,
There's this new paradigm that is not doesn't even resemble anything I've ever seen before,
mhm.
and people are fighting, and I'm not even sure what the heck they're fighting about.
I know.
Uh, it's really weird,
It is weird.
and I have to be so careful about like everything I say. It's like I say one thing, it's like I'm never coming to see you again. F you, Ben, and it's like,
Jeez, I'm just trying to just be a
but
human over here.
everything's political. I mean,
I
I
know.
got I got an exhaust, right, that a guy gave me for my Harley Davidson Pan America. I got slaughtered because people said it's too loud and I'm disturbing the peace, and this is not what should be out in the environment when you're off-roading, and it turned into this political thing. I'm like, this guy gave me this beautiful exhaust and I wanted to tell you about it. And want to get one, but that's how it's become.
Yeah.
Everything's
Just
politicized.
keep I want to just encourage you to keep being yourself, keep going out there. I'm sure you will. I mean, you're a rock and roll guy for, damn it, you're going to do whatever you want. But there was a study about like I think it was a squirrel. They would like randomly zap the squirrel. Like you push a button or the squirrel would push a button and get a nut. And then you push another button and he gets zapped. And then they would do another study where they would just randomly zap the squirrel regardless of which button he pushed. And eventually he just stopped pushing the button and starved to death. So essentially, by what's happening in culture right now, it's almost like whether if I say this, I'm going to get this response. If I say this, I'm going to get this response. I might as well just say nothing and just avoid all of it. Like, don't stop just being yourself. Like, don't let this bully you into, not doing anything. Just keep creating content. You're going to always find people who love you and support you. And, you've definitely got me as a fan for sure. So
Thank you. I just want to unapologetically be me. You know what I
absolutely.
mean?
And everybody else should
And
be that way too.
as far as I don't know what content I would have to create to keep those Poison fans engaged because I have done uh, videos on the road. And,
Hmm.
I can't get in, our bass player's face with a camera and go, now this is my content and I'm going to put it on my YouTube channel. And I don't really care what you're doing right now. I can't do those things. I'm not going to disrespect my own band. You know what I
Of
mean?
course.
But I did do a lot of backstage stuff. I did a lot of tuning drums, doing all this stuff and they don't perform those videos don't perform really any better
Hmm.
than my legend tripping stuff
Yeah.
some do but like when I went back to wood drums I right halfway through the tour I got rid of this metal kit and got a wood kit that performed really well I just
It sounds like
I'm not
you may have a large amount of drummers that watch you.
maybe
Because I was looking at that video, and a lot of the comments are drummers for sure.
yes for sure and
So the
so
algorithm may know that, and serves it to them. You know.
yeah, yes. There's something there. I have to crack this code because it's
I
it's
would,
it,
dude, I would be down to come out sometime and spend a couple days, maybe a week out in Cali, and we could like figure it out together, shoot some videos. That'd be fun.
dude, I'd love to do that. I would, really. Um
I
what
think
channels do you I'm not interviewing you, but what are your channels now? I know you were working with the
Indie
lighting
Mogul.
guy. Yes, Indie Mogul, which that guy seems I've heard he's the
Ted.
coolest guy ever.
He is. Ted is the president of Aperture, and he was the host of Indie Mogul. He acquired the channel a couple of years ago from the original owners who started it back in 2012, which in YouTube land is like ancient history. And it's funny you were talking about how rock and roll changed, throughout the years and had different genres, and you kind of have to just keep up with it. The same is true with YouTube. It's like if you were part of that OG 2012 YouTube world, things are completely different now. And Mr. Beast has changed the platform. Logan Paul changed the platform. Casey Neistat changed it. You have all these people like them who are essentially rock stars on YouTube that kind of change the way it works.
Peter McKinnon.
McKinnon, absolutely. Although I've kind of noticed like I feel like the camera channels. I don't know if you've picked up on this, but the views are just lower than ever. Like I think it's
Are they
because
really?
yeah, like McKinnon's got 6 million subs, and he's like, I mean, no shade towards Peter. I'm a big fan, but he's getting like 100,000, 200,000, which sounds like a lot, but for a channel with 6 million subs, that's not a great ratio. I mean, the brand new Ronin came out yesterday. That Ronin 4D camera, which looks really cool. I don't know if you saw any videos on that. Oh my
I
goodness.
have not watched the videos. I have about five watch
Watch
laters.
laters. Yeah.
Yes, and I haven't gotten to it yet. But
Take some time to watch that. I think this gimbal camera thing is quite revolutionary. Maybe even, you could throw the term out there, game changing. It's really quite amazing. But yeah, he posted that video yesterday. It's a wonderful new product, well-made video, 300,000 views, and he's got 6 million subs. Like that again, that is a lot of views. I'm not taking away from that, and he's making plenty of money from it. But I just find it fascinating that like a gaming channel or a comedy channel with 2 million subs will post a video, and within a day they already have 1 million views. And I feel like it's a difference in the audience potentially. I think we've kind of arrived at a point where all cameras are good, so there's not as much nuance anymore like it was a couple years ago. A couple years ago, some cameras had headphone jacks and some didn't. Some had flip screens and some didn't. Some of them had dual pixel autofocus and phase detect or contrast detect. And like now, almost all the cameras are good and they all have solved the problems that we have. It's kind of like, okay, now I guess we gotta just go make stuff now.
Yeah.
But
I mean, yeah, there was such a mystery to some of that stuff at one point in time, and the veil has been dropped a lot. And but um, the gaming stuff is what's killing it. I mean, it's everywhere, and I think people's attention spans are getting even shorter. I think it's why TikTok,
TikTok, yeah,
because if I grab my phone and I'm like, hey, I'm grabbing my
your
10,
GoPro 10,
my GoPro 10, okay,
nice.
and I can go like, hey, look at this, and 15 seconds, right? I can show you something, and it's over, and you laugh or you respond or you don't. But if I'm like, look at the new Dave Mays video on this new product, it's like I don't have 20 minutes right now. I'll check that later. I think that you can consume these 15-second things. It's so much quicker. It's almost like showing somebody a picture. Isn't this a funny meme?
Yeah.
And it's more rapid. You can get that. I mean, because I look at my stats on YouTube, and I mean, still, I mean, it's 70% is off of the phone. People are
Yeah,
consuming it.
totally.
Uh, so they're definitely sitting there, in the car or
It
like on
was,
their couch or where in bed at night. I don't know when they're consuming it, but
yeah.
uh, less on the computer. And I'm all concerned about how it looks on a bigger screen, and how
Hmm.
the audio sounds in a bigger environment. And very few people consume it that way, you know?
Totally. In my conversation with Hayden Hillier Smith, who's Logan Paul's editor on this podcast, I don't know if you've listened to it. I don't want to plug my own thing, but it was a really fascinating interview to talk to Hayden. He mentioned to me how they do intentionally shoot it poorly so that it feels more authentic and kind of handheld and you know amateur. Because Logan Paul could totally afford a film crew to follow him around and film his videos, but he purposely hires one guy with a Sony A7S and a 16 to 35 lens and just follows him around, and that's it. Just no gimbals, no, nothing fancy, just keeping it. It is a decent camera, it looks good, but it's not shot to look like a movie. And that's kind of, I feel like over time YouTube will slowly shift into maybe becoming more highly produced in terms of like television level quality content, but we're still not there yet. And I think the thing that makes YouTube so refreshing to watch is that it's not as polished as The Bachelor or any of those reality shows that are big on television. Um,
Did
so
you have you read the book Stream Punks?
no, I haven't.
It was written by, his name escapes me, Kinkle, with the president of YouTube, the CEO.
Stream
Uh,
Punks. Yeah, written by Robert Seinkel with Manny PVN. Is that right?
yeah,
Stream Punks.
I think he does an amazing job of summing up
I'll pick it up.
YouTube, and it's like my fiance isn't really like, she'll turn on YouTube just for certain videos. She's done it. It is my television in so many
Yeah.
ways. Okay. I mean, I'll watch certain series, Last Kingdom, things like that. But the rest of the content that I consume is on YouTube, and there is so much talent. There was so much non-talent, but there was so much talent.
A lot of
There's
non
so many
talent.
different kinds of talent. There's,
Yeah.
people that just hold a camera like this and are able to compel you for a very long period of time. And there's other people that they can have the most amazing setup and most beautiful shots, and I can't get 1 minute past it, and I appreciate those things.
Yeah.
And it's like, so what is it? What is that chutzpah?
Hmm.
Okay, that works. I mean, there's like every time Lindsay Sterling does a video, oh my, it's insane, right?
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, she's like the prince of violin. I mean,
Totally.
you know what I mean? She's amazing. She's such a
Yeah.
talent.
I heard a
Um,
great I heard a great interview with Colin and Samir. They interviewed I don't know if you've heard of them. They have a YouTube channel. They interview other creators, and they interviewed one of the top kind of YouTube executives. And he said YouTube, from their perspective, they kind of separate the whole site into three categories of creators. There's musicians, so it's basically just we're replacing MTV. So there's that whole section of Taylor Swift and Poison and whatever, right? You have your music videos, and then you have late night and kind of the second home for traditional media. So clips from SNL, late night hosts, highlights from the Olympics, that kind of thing. It's basically things that live on television, and then they have a second life on YouTube. And then the third category is creators, and that's the one that they see obviously the majority of the users are, but they really do view it in those three categories. And I would say Lindsey Sterling is a great example of kind of riding the line of like being in the music space but also being a creator. So those two kind of combined,
yeah,
just like how Carrie Underwood is a pop country artist, those two combined together to make her a very successful artist. It's kind of that way for Lindsay, I would imagine, and then and other like the piano guys, they were big back in the day as well. But the creator
you know what?
space is so interesting. What were you gonna say? Sorry.
No, I interrupted. I said I would get back to this. We were talking about traditional media and breaking a band and today's social media and why some bands it works and some don't. And you were saying like
Yeah,
flyers and those kind of things were those that social media back then. And I've
yeah,
had some people that they don't understand. They'll have a million people that sub on their channel, okay? But they'll play a show and there's, 200 people at their show.
yeah,
And it's like you have to understand that those million people are all over the globe, okay?
yeah,
They're not in one place.
yeah.
You still have to break bands regionally. Okay, I'm going to do
Yeah,
the West Coast. I'm going to play these California and Arizona and wherever,
totally.
and keep like hammering that and become. And if people want you to come to them, it's still important that touch, and you kind of take over in a regional way. You can, I think, give people a heads up as to what you're about and pique their interest. But at the end of the day, you still need to go there and play and them see you and connect with you. And that's why traditional media is still as important, and why there's a disconnect too, where a lot of people don't understand why this works and that doesn't work. And I think somewhere in there lies the answer.
Totally. Yeah, 100%. What with your YouTube channel, what is it for you? Is it a side thing that you're like it's your passion, it's just something that you're enjoying? Is it something that you would like to pursue on a more full-time basis?
Yeah, totally. I think the future is YouTube or
Yeah.
platforms. I
Totally.
keep waiting for another platform to come along, and nothing's come along, and nobody wants to compete with YouTube, right?
Yeah, it's
Uh,
the second most visited website in the world. So, and the first is Google. So, and Google owns YouTube. So,
they've got it.
it's not going anywhere. I don't think it's going anywhere. I think it'll only get bigger and bigger. It will become, it is already, but it will continue to become the television of the internet.
I mean, I think if Vimeo figured a way to pay content creators, I think because it's a really good platform too, but it doesn't have the social aspect.
Exactly.
And but I mean, there's a that's my second platform. If I want to just put up a video to show somebody, but I don't want it for mass consumption, I put it on Vimeo, and that
Yeah,
way I
same
can just
here.
put a password, and you know what I
I
mean.
still I still pay was it like $60 a year or whatever to have that so that I can kind of have password protected videos and just I like their encoding is pretty good, and it's a clean setup. You don't have all these ads everywhere. So and I think they've totally given up on trying to compete with YouTube. There was a time where they were trying to, but it's obvious that it's impossible to keep up.
And so, in some ways, they do in terms of Patreon,
Mm-hmm.
because it integrates with Patreon really
Oh,
well.
cool.
So all my extra video stuff goes on Patreon,
Oh, cool.
and
I didn't know you
so
were doing Patreon. How have you liked that platform?
I do like it, and I'm very lazy with it. I like I'm a one man band. Like I do once in a while I have help, once in a great while. 90% of the time I do everything on my own. So I'm editing, I'm shooting, I'm writing it, I'm doing, you know, the drill. I'm sure you've
Yep.
been there.
Been there, done
And
that. Yeah.
it's like by the time I'm done, I'm like exhausted. I'm just like,
Yeah.
okay, now I'm gonna do content for Patreon too, and I have 10 cameos to do. It's like I'm tired of looking at a camera and my hair doesn't look good. Nah, you know.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah.
Oh, the life of Rikki Rockett. It's crazy, man. That's nuts.
Well, but I have kids and and all that stuff.
Uh,
So, and
How
so things,
how did that change your world having kids?
Great. I am so in love with my kids. I have a 12-year-old boy and an 8-year-old girl, and I just love them to death. I mean, I'm divorced, and so I have 50-50 custody, my ex-wife and I. So I get them back every Friday, and then
That's
I
good.
have them for or every other every other Friday.
Yeah.
And we just have a blast over the weekend doing a
Yeah.
bunch of dumb stuff and riding dirt bikes or whatever. And then I got to get serious. And my fiance is amazing educator. Like she helps with her school. Wasn't great in school. I'm not dumb, but I just didn't love school.
Yeah.
But she's really good in that space,
That's
and it
awesome.
is phenomenal at how she helps them. So they don't call me, they call her. I want to talk to TC and I got a B on my test, or
Yeah.
I aced this, and
Well, yeah,
so
last
yeah,
year I'm sure she helped out a ton. I mean, there was no real school last year, so
she did so much. It's like I'm forever indebted, really.
that's amazing. Yeah, I can relate to. I mean, I'm a little behind on you. I've got a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old, so I'm working on that. I'm still new to it, but we're kind of in the thick of it right now in terms of the stress level. I actually started noticing my bangs were getting kind of like frizzy, and I asked my hairdresser, I was like, "What's going on?" She's like, "That looks like you're losing your hair." I was like, "What? No!" I'm like 31, I'm like starting to become a man. So,
Well, I've always had this high forehead, so
maybe I
it's
have that. 'Cause I
you
have the
know,
same. We have the same kind
yeah.
of, yeah, the witches. What do they call the witches' peak?
Oh, widow's peak.
The
Now that's
widow's.
kind of one of my these things. But I look at pictures of my dad. He always say I have my dad's forehead. He always had this high forehead,
Yeah, yeah.
like. But so
I think
thankfully I haven't lost anything.
I think it's the kids. I think the kids are giving me so much stress that I'm starting to lose my hair.
Uh,
It's gone gray, that's for sure, in certain areas. But
oh,
um,
me too. Me too. I just cover it. I cover it. I'm 60. I'm
it works
60
well,
years old.
dude. Works well. I love it. I'm almost half your age.
Wow.
Well, my dad's 61, so Papa.
Really? That's funny. It's just so weird. At one point, it sort of doesn't matter.
It doesn't. No, we're adults. We're both grown men with families and jobs, and
Like I was
we have the same musical taste too, which is great.
I was with the kids at a birthday party, and there was this one girl that looked to be about Jude's age, my son. And I said, she's really cute, Jude. And he goes, I'm like, what? He goes, she's too young.
Too young.
Yeah. I'm like, how old is she? She's 10. And I was like, you just turned 12. Okay. I mean, in my world, like 2 years apart,
Yeah,
nothing,
nothing at all, my man.
relative, right?
No, I remember in high school, yeah, like a freshman, when I was a senior, a freshman was like so young, it was only a 3 year difference. It's like if you're a senior boy dating the hottest freshman girl, you're crazy. What are you doing or whatever? Well, I don't know. Most
I did
people wouldn't.
not have the hot freshman girl in school.
Me
No, I was
neither.
a geek. So
I only kind of came into my own after high school, and I think ever since then it was just like a chip on my shoulder.
good for you.
But it was because of magic. I got into magic when I was young and I started doing
Oh,
magic
really?
shows and stuff. Yeah. Yeah, I was a magician for about 5, 6 years professionally. And then
What's your opinion on the the amazing Randy?
the amazing Randy. I didn't really watch any of his stuff. Uh let me I'm not sure. I Have you ever seen the amazing Jonathan?
I don't think so.
Oh, the amazing Randy. You mean James Randy?
James Randy, yeah.
Okay, yeah, yeah. Sorry. I never called him by that name. Was he the one that would debunk people on TV and stuff like Yuri Geller and
Yes,
stuff like that?
he became a
He
kind of like a professional naysayer. Like
when
he's the one that for like 15 years had the $1 million check saying
Yes.
if you can prove that they're
Okay.
supernatural, I will sign it over to you. And after 15 years, he finally went, nobody
When
can
did
do
he
it. So
Oh, he died last year. I didn't know that.
he did, yes. He
Okay.
came out gay and like at 85 or something.
Yeah,
Like,
I remember there was I think did Teller, Penn and Teller, I think Teller made a doc or somebody made a documentary and he was in it and he kind of came out which was that was interesting.
right?
But
Yeah.
I wouldn't have really suspected that, but who cares, right? It doesn't matter.
I
But
don't want his sleight of hand, okay? So,
oh my gosh.
no,
Yes.
I have so much respect for him and the fact that he was very brave and just like,
Yes. Yuri
uh,
Geller, I remember there was a great video of him on, was it the Tonight Show maybe, or yeah, with Carson,
probably.
Johnny Carson, 1973. Yuri Geller came on, and I think he would basically tried to. That it kind of became the Amazing Randy's kind of shtick was that it's like prove that you can do
Oh, he
the real deal.
destroyed him. He's like, okay, I'm going to bend the fork too, and then I'm going to show you how it's done.
Yeah.
And that's what this guy's doing. Now, I've seen. I'm not going to mention any names, but there is a lot on YouTube right now talking about the Gabby Petito case and people running with it in all kinds of different directions. I think it's terrible. And there's a lot of these paranormal people doing things about contacting her and all this stuff.
Oh
Again,
my
I'm not
goodness. Yeah.
mentioning any names. And I just feel kind of sad for her parents and her loved ones and all that kind of stuff. If my daughter was killed and people were saying they're talking to her, I would be like incensed.
Yeah.
You
Well,
know?
the thing that's so evil about that is that they're using a popular culture phenomenon right now for clicks. It really is the definition of clickbait.
It is. And I try to be careful with this. Okay. I try to keep to, if something doesn't have an element of urban legend to it, I kind of try to stay away from it.
Hmm.
And like for instance, there is one case that I'm absolutely obsessed with, and it's the Girl Scout murders. And I want to do a documentary on it. I actually have had some meetings with some investors, which is why I want to keep my Komodo. Um,
Yes.
and it's three, 8, 9, 10-year-old girls that were severely murdered, severely tortured and
Mm.
sexually assaulted, murdered in the 70s in Oklahoma at a Girl Scout camp. And it has haunted me ever since I learned about the case. And but it's the guy got off on the charges because he said he was shape shifting. He was a Native American that was shape shifting. Couldn't have possibly have done it, and
Oh
the
my
jury
gosh.
bought it and left him off. Right? I mean, that's only one aspect of the case, but it made me kind of go, oh, I think I can bring this into the legend tripping sphere and do
Totally.
something about it. And I've gotten so just like the parents and the sisters and friends and people of these little girls a lot of them are still around, and they want answers. And I'm like, God, I want to be the guy that
Yeah.
kind of blows this thing wide open somehow. I know that's a really lofty thing
Well,
to take on, but
we
uh,
finally have with this whole. I think there was a great video that just came out by I think it's ASAP Science or something, or big science channel. I forget his name, but he talked about how the Golden State Killer was found, basically using the whole DNA tracking method. And so there's just so many cold cases that have finally been getting solved because of these open source DNA tracking. So like a distant relative may do this DNA track and it links to a murder that happened several years ago, and it's a real revolutionary tool
yeah.
for people to use. So maybe it's possible. Maybe it is possible to find out. So
They did do some recent DNA in 2018, I think it was, and it was still inconclusive. I don't know if there's other sources of DNA out there,
sure,
but there's, I mean, there's nothing, a lot of people go, oh, circumstantial evidence. Well, at one time, that's all we had, right?
sure.
People have been put to death for that, or eyewitnesses. These are important things too. So it's not all just DNA. So, or maybe somebody would speak up finally. They'd
Yeah.
go, I don't know, but it's worth a shot. And it's the worst tragedy that people don't know about. I feel like, I mean, some people do, but it's never been blown wide open.
So what are some of the things that really fascinate you when you're trying to come up with content? I mean, you've just listed a couple ideas that you have. If you go on your channel, you can really see it. But what is it about these stories that you're so attracted to when it comes to kind of paranormal and murders and things like that?
I love I love folklore. Although I'm not a folklorist, I can't sit around a campfire and say, "Well, in Ireland in 18," But but I do have a sense of where some of this stuff comes from, especially when there's things to do with bridges. Like actually in Ireland, there is all kinds of folklore about bad things that happen with bridges and under bridges and trolls and all this kind of stuff. And now we have trolls on the internet, so. Uh,
Yeah.
Um, so, it is interesting when you find a new uh, urban legend, or not new, but when I say new, I mean this century, and you can equate it to something in the 1700s in another country, and you go,
Mm,
oh, that's odd. That's where some of that idea must have come from. But
yeah.
then you have other things like the people that were killed on a train that derailed, and then these paranormal investigators were going up the wanted to go where that train came at that exact time on the night that it really happened, which is kind of a legend tripping thing. And they're on the bridge, and a train really came and actually killed a couple of them. So, you know,
Yeah.
I had nothing funny about it, but I just mean the irony is like funny how it's almost like if you try hard enough, you can actually conjure this stuff.
Totally.
And maybe that at the end of the day really is what hauntings really are, what legends really are, what
Mm,
all this stuff is what we give it so much energy. I mean, I've been to the Amityville house a bunch of times. I don't know if it's haunted, but I'll tell you, it may as well be, because there's so much energy in that house now from everybody going, "Oh, it's haunted.
uh,
Murders really happened here." I mean, it may as well be. I mean, it echoes all that energy somehow. And so I think that maybe in scientifically, there are some echoes of the past and
mhm.
the energy and all that stuff. And I'm not sure how it ties together, but it's what I'm try to solve a little bit as I go along. I feel like I keep putting pieces together. There's a channel called Closer to Truth. It's a great YouTube channel. Older guys, a PhD, and that's what he does. He talks about consciousness, and he talks about God, and he talks about answering all those tough questions. And I mean, I would do anything to get this guy on to dig into some of these urban legends and find
Oh,
out
cool.
what makes some of them tick. Because some of them are loose and lame, and some of them are very almost 80% real. You
Hmm.
know what I mean? But none of them have been 100%, and
Yeah.
none of them have been 100% not real. And that's what keeps me going. Is that truth is somewhere in there? How much of it? I go into it um, I go into it going, I'm going to believe anything because anything's possible. I go in with that mindset. What if everything is possible? Everything from leprechauns to witches and all of it's possible, right?
Uh-huh.
And then once I look at it that way and I'm not getting the answers, then I go in with the naysayer attitude and go, well, then this is what's happening because that didn't happen, and that didn't happen. So why?
Uh-huh.
And that did, and why? Why is the EMF meter going off? Well, there's electricity in the house. I mean, then I start picking that apart. So I come into it rather than the opposite. The old saying, if you're a hammer, everything's a nail. So I try not to be that. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I try
yeah.
to be the hammer and the nail. I try to figure it out from that aspect, and that's what keeps me going. And that's what I want people to get from my channel. Not just like sometimes it's fun just to tell a creepy, spooky story. But if I was going to do that, I'd have a creepy pasta channel. You know what I mean? And
Creepy
and I'm
pasta channel?
yeah, just all those
Make
creepy ideas. You know,
I thought you meant like make pasta and tell creepy stories channel.
have you seen Creeps McPasta?
No?
Oh my gosh, the channel is huge, huge
Oh,
channel.
creepy pasta. Oh, you're actually being serious. That's a thing.
I'm being totally serious.
Oh, it's a
Yeah,
massive channel. Yeah, that's
massive.
Creeps McPasta, 2 million subs, a horror movie in your mind. Great. Yeah, I'll check it out.
They're very big these days, but and I think it's fun and all that kind of stuff. But that's not what I'm doing on my channel. I'm trying
Yeah.
to keep it real, bro.
Keep it real, bro. And people are just kind of joining you along with the journey. So,
Yes,
I think
yes,
the YouTube formula book kind of talks about it. Like you can look to channels like this guy for inspiration, but you still got to stay true to who you are. That's what makes you a unique proposition. That's what makes your channel special compared to anyone else. Is that you are uniquely yourself. So just embrace who you are and pick a niche that you like that you can probably see yourself doing for years to come, and just go for it. And to answer your question, you asked me what am I doing with channels. I never actually answered that. I kind of went on a tangent because I don't like talking about myself on the podcast. But basically, I've been. But to be honest, my wife and I felt like we needed to leave LA. We were living in Pasadena. We really did love it, but
great town.
it was a great town, and of all the towns in LA to live in, that's kind of the best one, I think.
Oh,
So,
oh, side note, really quickly. I did a piece on the Pasadena suicide bridge.
ooh, okay,
So if you get a chance, check that one out.
I'll
That
watch
was,
it. I didn't.
yeah.
I never realized that it was a suicide bridge over there.
Oh my gosh, over 140 suicides off that bridge. It's
Really?
insane the amount of
Ooh,
suicides. Yes. Anyway, sorry to interrupt
I
you
will
on that.
absolutely watch that. I saw Jay Leno drive by once in his old Model T. That was kind of fun, but um, because he lives out there. But anyways, what was I saying? Oh yeah, my wife stays home with the kids, and we were just kind of stuck indoors. And we're from Nashville originally, so I know what it's like to live in a state where you can have land and kind of live a more normal kind of life, own a home, and kind of be surrounded by people who say hello to you at the grocery store. And
Mhm.
my parents also live here as well. My dad's actually a music producer, so I grew up in that industry. So, anyways, so we were thinking about moving back home, anyways, and I got an offer to work with my cousins of all people who own a photography business to do their videos. They sell courses to other photographers on how to become successful photographers. It's kind of a meta universe thing for me to do, but so I took that position. They basically matched what I was making and paid for my whole move to move back home. And these last 7 months, I've been it's been a real blessing for me to not have to think about YouTube or anything else in terms of income and revenue. I actually have like some real revenue coming in from my day job, but that freedom has allowed me to really spend some time in research and figure out what I want to do next, and just kind of having my pulse on the kind of camera gear filmmaking YouTube space for so long now. I kind of felt like my time had cut. Even though I love cameras, I could probably talk about cameras for the rest of my life. I felt like in order to get out in front of millions of people, I would need to change niches and find something else. And my roots are really in performing. I was a magician for so long. I loved it and performed for thousands of people doing that, not millions, but did kind of like small time shows here in Nashville and around the areas. And then I became a filmmaker. So YouTube really was kind of the perfect marriage of, and I think you have that as well as a performer yourself, and a filmmaker now. It's kind of the perfect marriage, YouTube, because you're not just making videos, you also have to be a performer. And I think that's one of the things that a lot of people don't know how to do. And that's something that you especially have a lot of experience in, being a performer. And so I think a lot of people miss out on that, and they forget that YouTube is a performance in of itself. You have to learn how to be a performer. All that being said, I'm starting a retro gaming channel, basically. I'm going to take retro games, like old Super Mario or Mario Kart or like the Wii, Wii Sports, stuff like that. Get an old CRT television, put it on a cart, go into downtown Nashville on Broadway, and just challenge people to Wii Sports, or here's some yeah, challenge people to, you have to collect 20 coins in the next 30 seconds or I slam a pie in your face or whatever, or like, or if you can achieve this simple task in under 60 seconds, you get a free donut, or it can scale all the way up to all sorts of things, like I could give away money like Mr. Beast, or playing Guitar Hero with Nashville's best guitar players, or whatever.
You'll never run out of that.
Yeah, exactly. Dance Dance Revolution with real dancers. I think it's like $300 to rent out a movie theater these days because theaters are desperate for cash. So you could literally do like playing Super Mario in a movie theater.
Wow.
And I'm gonna start small. Start with TikTok and YouTube Shorts. That way I don't have to think about the production so much. I could just have some friends with an iPhone just film me doing this. And it kind of gets back to my roots as a performer. I love drawing a crowd. I love being big, a big personality. And I loved doing comedy in my videos. If you saw my videos, you saw the comedy. I felt like a lot of it kind of fell flat. I really appreciate that you liked it. But I did find on average that filmmaker demographic really took themselves very seriously. And I feel like if I were to go to a different genre that kind of allows for more fun, like this retro gaming space, which is my demographic, kids in the 90s grew up with the Nintendo 64, the Super Nintendo, and then even older would be like, the original Nintendo system or Atari. I could have lots of fun with these older systems that immediately generate this feeling of nostalgia. But then it's really focused on the relational aspect of gaming, not the guy in a room, a guy sitting in his basement just like sniping people with esports or like Fortnite or Minecraft or whatever. Those are all great, but I have no interest in that. I'm really more interested in the relational side of how fun it was to play Wii Sports with my grandma. We would play Castlevania, dude. Can you be one of my first guys? Like Rikki Rockett plays Castlevania. That'd be fun.
Yes, let's do. And this is a true story. I was obsessed with Castlevania. I got all the way to the highest level, and I swear, blackout. We had a blackout.
Oh my gosh.
Everything went out, and
And
there
it
was
was
not, you couldn't save games back
yeah, it
then,
was
right?
on the NES, right? So there was no save. They didn't even have any RAM on the device to save it on them.
It was just gone all at
Dude,
once.
did
I
you
mean, I was like, oh, and at that point I went, I don't want to game anymore.
that sealed the deal.
But I think the very first game I ever played on a computer was Leisure Suit Larry in the Land of the Lounge Lizards on an Atari computer. And I
Leisure
still
Suit
have that
Larry.
Atari.
Oh my gosh. Wow. I'm looking up some very interesting game. What the
Yeah,
heck
no,
is
he'd try to like get a date and he'd have to like use his breath spray. And I mean, I mean, it's just so funny.
Oh
It
my
was
gosh.
so
There
And,
was
and
a
it just it came with the computer. I bought the computer. They go, you get one free game and one something else. And I went, okay, I'll take. You'll love this game. Oh, okay, okay. So I took that
Atari.
game, and it was the only thing I had to play. So, but
Dude,
yeah,
that is
and I can
hysterical.
still get that Atari. One of these days, I'm going to do a start up my Atari computer video
Oh
just for
yeah.
the heck of it. It doesn't fit with my channel at
Well,
all.
that would fit with this new channel I'm starting, so let's do it.
Oh yeah, it would,
We
right?
could do Leisure Suit Larry. That is
Yeah.
hilarious. I've never even heard of that game.
That's
See,
kind of a cerebral game. Like you can't do it in 5 minutes. Like it's
yeah.
like you have to sit down and like it's one of those. Okay, you're walking through a door. Now what? You have to
Yeah.
answer the questions.
We'd have to come up with some sort of premise, like every time something happens, we take a shot, or we do something, or we time it so that we only have 4 hours to beat this game or whatever. I don't know.
Right.
Um,
Yes.
Basically, the thing that I've learned from Mr. Beast and this YouTube formula book is having some sort of you want to make your audience actively watching the video to where they can't stop watching the video. There has to be some sort of premise or reason for them to finish the video. For Mr. Beast, he'll set up the premise. I buried myself alive, and I'm gonna bury myself alive, and I'm gonna be underground for 40 hours. Whatever. And then you want to see it happen, right? Like there's a beginning, middle, and end. So by focusing it on like TikTok videos at first, it'll really allow me to hone this skill of like trying to tell a very simple story in like 20 seconds. Of I go to the park with a couch and an old CRT television, and like force somebody to play me at Mario Kart, and the winner wins a slice of pizza. It doesn't even have to be money, because I don't have much of it right now. So I could just do that for now and just tell that story as quickly as possible, and then it can scale up to a full 10-minute video when I'm ready to scale it and have the audience for it. Um,
Well, man, you could make it almost like the Queen's Gambit, where like she's in the park playing the old pros. I mean, it's
yeah,
like
that's a great idea.
and then you could satisfy the very serious filmmakers, by having like this beautiful opening to it.
Yeah, you're right. I could do that.
Well,
I think that's the unique thing about me, is that I can shoot it well. A lot of people in the gaming space don't have the ability to shoot professional looking video, so that already gives me a leg up for sure.
so are you exclusively, but I don't want to say exclusively, but is the C70 your main camera now?
Yep, that is the camera that I use. I still, like I said, I personally own and use the Olympus for all sorts of different things. It's kind of like I have two Olympus cameras. Those are kind of like my B and C cameras. So if I ever need an extra angle, I'll use that still. And it is a better camera for vlogging. Obviously, it's so much smaller. But yeah, the C7. I mean, it's not a cheap camera. So that one camera does do everything for me personally that I need. So I love it.
The one camera that I would use and not use anything else, if I could get the autofocus, and I'm working on it. I am working on it because I'm not going to just lay down to this. Okay. is the Leica SL2S.
Ooh, yeah, nice.
I love Leica, right? I have an M and I have the SL2.
I love
And
Leica as well. I'm a huge fan.
the SL2 video looks freaking gorgeous.
I
I
know
mean,
it does, man. It
gorgeous.
really does.
I mean, I blew an entire day thinking I was in focus.
That's
I mean,
awful.
I have, it has a selfie screen. I mean, well, it doesn't have a selfie screen, but I was, I would shoot, I'd go around and look, yes, I'm in focus. Everything's working. Everything's framed good. Great.
Yeah.
I mark the spot, do it, right? And then I get home, I'm like, oh, I can't, oh, look at the colors. Look, it's not in focus. Oh, it'll be in focus in a second. Let me go a little further in the timeline. Still not in focus. It's focused on this tree. Like,
Oh my
what is
gosh.
on? Yes, it just and
Yeah.
and it's happened twice now. And I finally went, nope. I'm going to use the R5 or the C70
Yeah.
to do my videos until I have a day to blow on getting the autofocus. If I can get the autofocus to work, well, the thing
I
is on
well,
a
it's not
phone.
it'll never be good because it's not phase detect. So it will continue to be a struggle. You can do it. Maybe if there's I'm pretty sure they have an app on your phone. Maybe that could be a solution is to check that and then you could tap your face and then lock it in that way. Um,
A lot of people want to tap my face, but that's
that's hilarious.
um, yeah. So, oh, and that's another thing too. At one point, I thought about doing jujitsu videos. I've been doing jujitsu for 23 years,
Oh wow.
Brazilian jiu-jitsu, and it's like, what
Yeah.
do I do with this? Like, at this age, I'm not teaching. I don't have my own school. I just keep training, and so once in a great while, I'll teach for a friend or something like that. But I'm like, maybe I should have a channel. So I think maybe uh, I'm on my Patreon channel. I'm going to have some workout stuff and stuff that I do because I'm vegetarian as well, and just like that part of my lifestyle, and see if that interests anybody.
Yeah.
Uh, and but I don't want to start a YouTube channel. I don't want to start anything. I
Well,
just
have you played around with TikTok at all? Do you have an account?
a little bit, a little bit. Yeah, I have a couple of things up.
I think that's a great place to. I mean, here I am, kind of sharing my thoughts on TikTok. I haven't yet been super successful with it. I did post a couple of my music video parodies on there, and they performed really well there. Because it's music related. Anything music related does significantly better on TikTok, I've seen. So, I mean, the fact that you are a musician, that you have that as an element of who you are, that could work out to your advantage. You'd have to kind of like the demographic on there is middle school, high school age, college age for the most part. Older, it's starting to get older and older audiences. My parents are starting to, be like using TikTok, So over the next couple of years, it'll continue to grow in terms of like reaching out to more demographics. But that could be a great place to put some stuff out and just experiment because the barrier of entry is so low. You don't have to think about titles and thumbnails. You can just experiment with things, and if the video doesn't perform well, it doesn't hurt your channel necessarily. You just kind of keep
Right.
keep going, and there's such an influx of viewers and a low number of creators. So TikTok is desperate for people to create content. So they really truly kind of, if somebody watches the video and they enjoy it, they will share it to as many people as possible that want to see it. It's kind of a true way to get discovered these days.
Is it still 15 seconds?
You can have up to 60 seconds now, I believe, which is,
Okay.
but 15 seconds is kind of the sweet spot in terms of length to get people to watch it. Kind of what you want is to kind of have like over 100% retention, which means people watch it more than once on average. So,
Right. Right.
um, which is why you kind of almost want it to be very fast paced and stuff like that. What's interesting is on average videos are 15 seconds on TikTok, and YouTube has much longer videos on average. But the last couple of months, TikTok has surpassed average view duration in the app in America. It's like over 25 minutes on average session time on TikTok a day. whereas YouTube is like 15, 20 minutes a day on average. So even though YouTube has longer videos, TikTok is holding people's attention longer
Wow.
overall in terms of staying on the app. So I find that fascinating that uh, people really are spending a long time on TikTok watching hundreds of videos. They just do this. It's so addictive.
Well, that's the thing with legend tripping with my channel. It's kind of an immersive kind
It's,
of subject matter typically, and so you have to like
it's
it.
storytelling. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a story. I mean, so you have to have a minute. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I try to hit like around 12 minutes. That's kind of my sweet spot.
Yeah.
Like if I go any further than that, and I have a couple that are longer than that, and a couple that are shorter. I feel like if it's short, people are wanting more, but not necessarily in a good way. They feel like they didn't get enough and they want a part two. So
Yeah.
I feel like 10 to 12 minutes seems to be where I can tell the story really, really well. And I never know what's going to hit. I mean, I've
Yeah.
looked up, like I did something on Ed Gein, right? I mean, kind of the original OG serial killer, right? And that just went huge. I mean, that was one of my biggest ones. I did one on my fiance when she got a tattoo.
Yeah.
Huge. People want to see tattoos. I can't do a tattoo video every day. Um,
Yeah.
I can't start a tattoo channel, right?
How
I
did
mean,
that one blow up? How did that get discovered and why did it get shared so much? Do you know?
I don't know. People were hungry. TC gets a new tattoo. That was the name of it,
Yeah.
and people just flocked to it. And she's taken um, the lap, going, yeah, it's because I was in it, and it's like, yeah, but you were in the Sturgis video and this video and this video, and it didn't blow up like that. So,
Yeah, yeah.
but
Well, maybe
and
maybe it got shared in some forum somewhere or something. Who
maybe.
knows? You never know. You can look at the analytics and kind of backtrack where things came from sometimes. And with Kinotika, every month, the M50 video was the highest performing video on our channel. So
God, I gotta tell you, I love, love, love the M50.
I know it's great.
There's so many videos with that. I gave it to my son, my
Oh, that's
M50.
a great use of it.
But
Yeah,
yeah, I mean, to me, the Olympus kind of took the place of the M50 for
sure.
me.
But I
But
still I still recommend it to kind of like normal people who just kind of want a good camera that's affordable and reliable. I
is there's a second one now, right?
Yeah, but you can skip it. It's the exact same hardware. They just kind of added some new software. It's really dumb. It's the same camera for the most part.
Really? Huh.
Yeah, I don't know why they don't do it. I had a Canon rep tell me at a conference one time. He said the M50 is like our number one seller on Amazon. Like it's a very high selling product. I don't know why they don't like keep the brand alive, like make more versions of it and keep iterating on it. But I don't, whatever. The Canon's a
It's
weird
so easy
company.
to use. It looks great. I
It
mean, it's
does.
just easy to use.
Sony has that new was it the ZV-E10, which is like a very tiny APS-C interchangeable camera. That's probably a better option now overall, but it's still, I mean, it's $700. It's still nowhere near as cheap as the M50 is. And although in this day and age, the iPhones just continue to get better and better and better, and year over year, I'm more and more surprised. I have the 12 Pro right now, and
Me too.
the I was tempted to buy the 13, but I'm just kind of holding out for next year. I think, if it's good this year, it'll be even better next year. So might as well just wait. I'm very pleased with the 12. That's the reasonable thing to do. Talking myself off the ledge. Plus, I ordered the new MacBook Pro, so I had to,
Too.
I'm very excited about that.
Very excited. I have an iMac that I do all my editing, and it's faster on my laptop. This is an M1
Yeah,
laptop, but I'm going to sell that and
yeah,
replace it with, and that's going to be my main computer, and I can
it's
take it on
awesome.
the road. Everything I'll be doing. That's my plan, is to do everything that I'm doing here
Yep,
and everything, and then I can take it on the road. It's not like I have a home computer and one on the road. It'll
exactly.
be, all the same. So,
Same
uh,
here. I'm
even
rocking
if
you can't see it, but I have the Mac Mini, the M1 Mac Mini. I really do like it. switched over to Apple Silicon as well, and really love how fast it is now. It's pretty crazy. But this M1X, or not M1X, M1 Max, it's unreal what they're doing with it now. So plus we got an SD card slot again.
I know it's a win-win. So I did order the 13. I wasn't going to. I usually skip an iteration, like I skip every other
Oh
year.
yeah, yeah.
But this time I went with it. Like I had the 10 and then went to the 12.
The ProRes
But
is really nice.
it was a thing came up in my Verizon thing, and it was like, look, you could upgrade for, 175 bucks, and that's it. And I'm like, you know what?
Might as well.
Okay, you know. So I'm doing it.
Let me
So
know
yeah,
what you think.
I got stock in Apple right before the very first iPhone was released.
No way, dude. Way to
So
go.
I haven't sold it ever, my stock.
Yeah.
So I'm just riding the Apple wave, and I've done really, really, really well with it. And I
Of
remember my
course.
brother at the time was like, I wouldn't put too much in. Then he's like, maybe put a little more in. And, and I just started riding it, and I blew it. I remember when the first PlayStation came out, and I
Yeah.
wanted to get involved, and they, no, 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 don't get involved in that tech.
Sony.
And
Yeah.
I wish I would have. And so I
Well,
won't listen to anybody anymore.
that's the classic though for everything, right? Like I had a friend tell me about Bitcoin like 6 years ago, um, and I was like, that's a bunch of baloney. But here we are. Did you get
Here we
into
are.
any crypto stuff?
Yes, I have Dogecoin, and I have a little bit of
Bitcoin or Ethereum?
yeah,
Yeah.
but not much. AMC, just a couple things, and I'm
Yeah.
doing it on Robinhood just to play.
Yeah, just playing around with
Just,
it.
yeah, just playing around. It's up and down, up, and it
Yeah.
never really,
It's
it hasn't gone crazy.
yeah, it's not something it's not as reliable as what you've done with Apple. I mean, that's pretty awesome.
That has been. I'm just scared to death that it's like gonna all of a sudden something will happen, like
They
like
continue to grow.
get indicted for something, or I'm
Yeah.
just scared to death that something bad will happen. But hopefully it won't. And it just went up with the recent announcement of the iPhones and the new
The new,
silicone
yeah,
Mac Pros.
yeah, the
Um,
MacBook. I
so
think
it's
it's really the nail in the coffin to Intel because this processor that they've developed, if you know anything about computers, is doing things that have never been done before. It's like we're used to in technology, at least the last several years, we're used to kind of like 25% faster, 30% more powerful. We're literally seeing these machines be 4 times as powerful. We're talking, 4x the power of the previous version. This type of technological leap does not happen that often, and it's kind of nuts when you really think about it.
it's insane. I just it's like, wow, where is this going to go? They talk about downloading our knowledge and all this kind of stuff, and it's like, and then you see these giant leaps, and you go, you know what? This and with Starlink coming with
Uh
Elon
huh.
Musk Starlink, I mean, we are going to be connected in a way that we never thought before. Is it going to be good or is it going to be bad?
Totally.
These are the things that sci-fi is written about, right?
Well, I mean, COVID in of itself is so sci-fi. I mean, it's continuing to show that it was developed in a lab. I mean, again, we don't want to get all political about it, but it makes sense. It's
To me,
like
it's not political. It just is what it
it's a
is.
fact. Thank you, Ricky. Yeah, it's like no wonder this thing is so resilient and crazy because it was man-made. I mean, and we're seeing the ramifications of what man has done to nature. How is this going to manifest in other ways in the future, in a negative way too? I mean, it's scary to think about. But that being said, Elon is working on ways to escape the planet and go to Mars, so that'll be cool. I
Yeah, and then we can take COVID with us.
Yeah, we could take it with us. Take it to Mars. Co-
Yeah.
COVID can go to hell, man. So
Yeah. Yeah. Have you had it?
I did. I had it about 3 months ago, actually. This is the first time I've
Wow.
announced it out loud. But unfortunately, my cousins who I work with, they got it from somebody and gave it to me. And thankfully, everything was contained. And I stayed in my home for 2 weeks, and my wife ended up getting it. My kids were totally safe. Everybody ended up being fine. We're all, we're healthy, and in that kind of, we're in our 30s, so it wasn't as scary for us, but um, it was pretty intense for me. I was kind of in bed for about 4 days. That being said, I've got strong immunities now, so I'm happy with that. But
Well, I was double vaxxed, and I still got it. But
wow, yeah,
and so I'm very convinced that it was, and clinically they believe they didn't prove it, but they clinically they were like, we're pretty sure this is Delta. So
okay,
we're pretty sure it was Delta. My son came back to me on a Friday night, and we always stay in the camper on Friday nights and
hmm,
watch horror movies and eat popcorn and hang out. And at 7:30, he wanted to go to bed, and I'm
oh
like,
man, yeah,
okay. So he slept in the camper with us, me and my daughter Lucy, and it's only a 16-footer. And the next morning, he had 102 fever, and he was throwing up and all
oh
this
man,
stuff. And I'm like, doesn't sound like COVID, but so I took him to the clinic, and they tested him for COVID. And the next day, I came back, and so a couple of days later, I went in and tested, and my nose started to run. And they're like, "Yeah, you have it." I'm like, "I'm breakthrough then." They're like, "How did you get it?" And I told them. They're like, "Okay, you were in a tube
yeah,
with your son for 8 hours. Yeah,
yeah,
so the viral load was so high that I
sure,
had that it's kind of like it's the way they described the vaccine. This one doctor was like, it's like a raincoat,
yeah.
and it rains, you're going to stay dry. It rains, you're going to stay dry. It rains harder, probably stay dry. You get in a monsoon,
You're gonna get wet,
probably
man.
not going to stay dry.
Yeah, yeah.
Better off with the raincoat. I was in a monsoon, you know what I mean?
Sure. Yeah, yeah, that
Uh,
makes sense.
so that's
Well,
probably what
I'm glad
happened.
you're
But
all right.
it was like 3 days
I
that I didn't feel good, and that was it.
Well, I was when I was doing my research on you before our interview, I did see that you had cancer. Can you walk us through that briefly, and what that experience was like?
Oh, it was absolutely, absolutely horrifying. And it's been 5 years now, so I'm 5 years clean,
Praise
which
God,
is
that's
awesome.
awesome,
That
man.
was in July. So, um, yeah, so I had oral cancer. And it was, literally the scariest thing that's ever happened to me in my life. And I did the regular, um, they call it standard of care, which is chemo radiation. They do it at the same time with
Mm.
oral cancer. They don't do it separately like some other cancer.
Oh wow.
So I couldn't swallow. I mean, it was very hard to swallow. I have liquid diet. Some people get a tube, a feeding tube. I didn't do that. I didn't
Mm.
have to do that. But after all that was said and done, I still had it. And that's
Oh
freaked
man.
me. I had about a 10% chance. And there was a newer technology, and it was immunotherapy. So I went to the doctor that specializes in immunotherapy clinical trials as well as standard of care, so he knows all aspects of it. And he said, "Yeah, I think you have time for us to try this." And
Wow.
within 9 weeks, I was 90% cancer free. In
Wow.
18, it was gone. It completely gone, and it's been gone ever
Praise the
since.
Lord, man. That's amazing.
Yes. And there was it's funny you'd say that because there's definitely more than just science going on here.
Hmm.
Okay. So, you know, and I felt like immediately, like, okay, this is going to be my duty now, to try to help other people. And so I do that a lot. I'm not right now. I'm not mentoring anybody specifically, but I've had a ton of some famous people too. Then they've called on me and said, "Oh, yeah, I know you went through this. What should I do? What am I going to expect?" And I'm like,
Yeah.
"Call me every day if you need to.
Mm.
Like, we'll get you through it. I got through it. We'll get you through it." And uh, so the last visit with my doc, he said, "Look," he goes, I've got patients now 11 years out. Other cancers, they're even further out with immunotherapy. He said, I my prognosis is it's not going to come back.
Wow.
Nothing's 100%, and it could. But he said, I think you'll be fine. He goes, but that being
Congratulations, man.
said, I want to continue to monitor you. So,
Yeah, yeah, sure.
so I'm like, not a problem. I'll be back here as often as you need to see me.
Did
So
you
that's where I'm at.
did you kind of have like that deathbed moment where you're like, this could be it? And what was going on in your head at that moment when you look back on your life in a moment of desperation like that?
Well, that's when I was going to videotape all these life lessons. I'm like, I'm going to do all these life lessons for my kids so that they can hear it
Yeah.
coming out of my voice
Mm.
uh, before I can't talk. Because at one point, my other option besides immunotherapy was to do chemo to just keep me going for a while, or do the surgery and they remove the whole tongue.
Oh wow.
So I
Yeah.
have a voice box and all that stuff,
Oh my
feeding
goodness.
tube.
Wow.
Most people, it comes back anyway. So
Well,
um,
did Eddie? What did Eddie Van Halen have? He had
I
tongue.
don't
I think he
know.
had throat. I thought he had throat cancer, but
He had tongue cancer like me, but I don't know the cause of it was maybe different.
yeah.
Mine was HPV, which is the most common these days. His may have been smoking. I don't know. He said metal guitar picks. I don't know.
Well, I mean,
Um,
I think anybody would know that Eddie was quite a chain smoker. So,
yeah, he smoked a lot. He did have some alcohol issues and stuff like that. So
but it was different
that's a
than your.
deadly combo.
It was different than your
And
thing.
that's a harder cancer to cure for some reason.
Yeah.
Um, uh,
But
so
anyways, sorry. So yeah, walk me
yeah,
through
so I
that.
had a moment when I talked to the surgeon before I got on the immunotherapy trial. The surgeon was like, I mean, he straight out said, I wouldn't wish this upon my worst enemy. I was like, I mean, this
Jeez,
was, it's not what you want to hear from your doctor, right?
no kidding.
And I remember riding around on a motorcycle with my now fiance, and I came home that night, and I was like, I had saw one guy that had a stoma, and I'm like, he must have had it. Some other guy that had something wrong. I'm like, maybe he had it, and I just seeing my life being like that or worse or not having any life, and I mean, I all that bravery just went right out of me, right?
Of course,
And
man. Of course.
and that's when she forced me to dance with her, and she had nothing to say because I was facing some hard stuff, and
Wow.
I just was determined to beat it and keep looking for answers, keep looking for answers, keep looking for answers. And my other oncologist said, "Yeah, there is this immunotherapy trial," and I said, "Help me find one. I'll go somewhere, whatever it takes. I'll fly to Finland, whatever."
Yeah.
Happened to be San Diego, so I went down, and that doctor has become like a friend. I mean, I can text him and he texts me back, and he's a wonderful human being.
That's
Like
awesome.
he is. And so I've done a few uh, symposiums and those kinds of things, meetings, and talk with people, doctors and other patients and all kinds of stuff. And we did this one fundraiser, and I was sitting next to um, one of the heads of American Cancer Society who was part of the fundraising event.
Hmm.
And I just remember him, there was some talk about immunotherapy. And he looked right over at her and pointed and said, I'm going to put you out of business. She said, I hope you do. And he said, oh, no, 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 I will.
Oh wow.
So he plays to win. He's looking to cure cancer
Wow.
through immunotherapy and a few other angles. Because there are things
Wow.
like brain cancer, things like that, that are not responding so well because of the brain blood barrier. I could go off on a tangent and all this kind of stuff, but there are many, many, many cancers that can be cured from immunotherapy, and there's other stem cell stuff. There's CRISPR. There's all sorts of things.
Yeah.
We're in a very, very exciting time, in terms of
Great.
uh, ways to treat it and possibly cure many kinds. I
Yeah.
mean, I'm calling myself a cure because I'm 5 years out. So, I still do
Yeah.
this. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
But
totally.
I feel they've kind of said, look, if you did standard of care and you're 5 years out, we call it cured. So you didn't do standard of care, you did immunotherapy, so we're still going to call it cured.
That's awesome, man. Way to
Yeah.
go. Congratulations. And did you did you feel like in this time you had any spiritual moments or anything like that? Do you believe in God, a God of some sort?
I do. And, I've always been, I grew up Methodist.
Okay.
Not a particular, like I don't go to church, and my children do, believe it or not. But yeah, it's like one of those kind of things where I'm constantly searching. Okay, what is? I kind of a little bit believe. People are going to make fun of me. I
No,
kind
say.
of believe in intelligent design a little bit because I believe all these things were set into motion by a.
I believe that.
And that's why there were dinosaurs and there were primitive man and there was, I mean, it's science and spiritualism work together in that
Totally.
environment, and that satisfies me a whole lot more than going, oh, it's one or the other.
Yeah.
I'm a human being. I can't postulate why there's something rather than nothing.
Yeah.
How am I going to tell you for sure if there's a God or there is not a God? It
Exactly.
does boil down to faith at one point in time because we
Yeah.
really don't know. you
I
know.
think if you're a parent at all and you hold your child in your arms for the first time, you really get a feeling of wow, there is something much more than me outside of this world because the spirit of each child that I've had, each personality is so unique and so different. And the fact that there was a moment in time where they didn't exist and then they came to be in the womb of my wife. I mean, it's just a miracle. It's such a miracle. Science hasn't figured that out yet.
No, it is, and consciousness itself. Why do we
Yeah,
have consciousness, and why does something else? I mean, if I'm made up of atoms, and this is made up of atoms, why doesn't this have consciousness? But I do.
or
You know,
animals. The difference between human and animal. Do they have consciousness? I don't know.
well, yes, and that's a big question, and I think monkeys do. I think maybe. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah,
That's a whole nother avenue. I mean, we could really go off on that, right?
yeah, that's another podcast.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm probably not the best one to interview about that.
And I'm not the best interviewer for that either. but
But my
no, it's
daughter, my daughter wants to be a paleontologist,
oh wow,
and
cool.
there's like this paleoarchaeology that's now becoming this thing where people are paleontologists and archaeologists and they're working together and all this stuff. And I said to her one night, I said, you don't just have to be a paleontologist, Lucy. I said, you could be a paleoarchaeologist and then you could study bones from people and from dinosaurs.
Oh, that's awesome.
He goes, Daddy, I really don't want to hurt your feelings, but I just want to study dinosaur bones. Thank you.
that
Okay.
is that's so cute. That's adorable. How old is she? You said?
Eight.
8.
Eight.
Yeah, yeah, that is adorable. Oh my gosh, I love that. I think that's a
I
great
hope she's,
I think that's a great way to end it. Ricky, thank you so
yes.
much for being on the show. I have a feeling that we'll stay in touch and continue to be friends. Maybe we'll have you on the show again. Um, and like I said, if you're in Nashville anytime soon, I would love to meet up, even just for coffee and hang out. And obviously, I'd be honored to come to a show.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I am going to share one thing with you, my
Yes,
latest acquisition before we go.
let's see
And
it.
I'm going to pull this
Oh,
out.
I see that.
Whip it out.
Within a split second, I know what it is. It's the new Leica.
Yes.
Is that the monochrome?
No, this is the M10 Reporter. So it isn't the
Ooh,
latest greatest. It's a 24 megapixel.
but it's beautiful.
I just think it's like part of me. Like it's the one camera that I feel like I can keep with me all the time,
I
right?
love the M. I don't know if you followed my story about getting robbed, but these crooks broke into my home and stole $40,000 worth of cameras. One of them was a Leica M3 that was my great uncle's, that was gifted to me. That was the only one that hurt because it was he was the only owner of it. Bought it in 1964. I still had the original receipt. He paid $2,000 for it in '64. So that tells you how, you know, how expensive it was even at that time. Um, and
How many cameras did you have? Like, are you
I
crazy with
I
cameras, or are you?
had seven, yeah, at the time that were stolen. I think in that moment I became more of a minimalist after being robbed, because I realized I don't need all these, and you know, but I do love to collect them. If I were, I'm sure I could nerd out. If I came over to your house, I would just be nerding out the whole time because it sounds like you're quite a collector.
Yeah, and my biggest my this is what everybody laughs at me about. I collect bags. I have camera bags. I
Oh
have
yes.
sleeves. I'm friends with Chase Reeves, the
Uh-huh.
YouTuber
Yeah,
that
yeah.
does all the bags. And I mean, he's the only other person that's but he's not as crazy as me because that's his channel. That's what he
Sure.
does. I don't do this. And, I
It's
just,
it's totally
I'm,
fine. I That's the only reason why I'm starting this retro gaming thing, because I've kind of become a little bit of a collector with games. I mean, that there's all sorts of gaming guys that collect all the old retro Nintendo games too. So if I can justify it with a job, then it's worth it. I mean, don't even get started with, musicians too. I mean, guitar players collect so many guitars. It's ridiculous.
and I have a lot of drums,
You
so
have a
we
lot of
could go
drums.
on and on. I like stuff. I'm not like this materialistic, like I don't care about anything else guy, but I do like stuff. I like playing with
Yeah.
stuff.
You're a
I've
gear
always
guy.
been that way. Yeah, I've always been that ever since I was a little kid. So, but thank you so much for having me. I really
Thank you
appreciate
for
it.
coming on, Ricky. This was a real honor and a real treat. I really enjoyed it.
So that please stay in touch. I mean, anytime. I think I even sent you my phone number so you can text me or
Oh, yeah,
whatever.
yeah, totally. Let
And
me do you know when you're coming to let's see, Poison Nashville? Is it available on the internet here? Let's see.
yeah,
June.
off.
Oh wait, it was originally scheduled in June, but that obviously came and went. We'll figure it out.
It might be rescheduled by now.
Yeah.
Some of them have already been rescheduled. A lot of those shows.
Yeah. Oh,
Some of them are being
yep,
worked.
June 2022, June 30th. Yeah.
Okay, so there you go.
It's
It's a
at
date.
the Nissan Stadium, so
Bring the family.
that'll be fun. Yeah,
Yeah.
my dad would get a kick out of it. He was in LA bands back in around that time as well. He was kicking around those clubs, seeing your posters as well. So he would get a kick out of it.
Oh, it'd be great to meet. Does he live in Nashville as well?
He does, yeah. He's a music producer. So and I was born in LA, but we moved here when I was 2. So they got out of LA during the Rodney King riots. So
Oh, okay.
yeah.
Well, I came this close to moving to Franklin.
Oh yeah, yeah. That's where everybody transplants. Yep.
Yeah. Yep.
Franklin, Brentwood. So I'm currently.
Leaper's Fork. I looked at a house in Leaper's Fork.
Oh, it's gorgeous there. Yeah,
Beautiful.
I
Yeah.
love it there. I grew up in Mount Juliet. I don't know if you're familiar with that area.
Yes. I looked at a house in Mount Juliet that was not finished, and they're like, you can finish it any way you want. You buy the house, we finish it how you want. I was
Yeah.
like, wow, okay. So, but
Totally.
that's come up a lot in the last couple years.
Oh yeah, it's almost as much money to live in Mount Juliet as it is in Franklin now. It's actually like really been growing. That's where I grew up. I'm currently living in basically Nashville, but we're looking at Murfreesboro because it's still cheap out there. So I could buy like 2 acres out there pretty cheap.
Yeah. That's where my bus driver lives. He passed away from COVID about 3 weeks ago.
Oh my lord,
Yeah.
really?
Yep. Yep.
I'm so sorry to hear that.
Kind of did the
Wow.
anti-vax thing, and it was too late by the time he changed his mind. So,
Oh
yeah.
Lord have mercy. I'm so
Yeah.
sorry.
Good guy too.
What's his name? Or what was his name?
Wes. His
Wes.
name. Wes. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, prayers for Wes and his family. That's awful.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, this thing isn't over yet. You got to be smart and
Yeah, we do. We do. And the cases have come down a lot. I think there was 70,000 cases, which was down from 6 weeks ago. It was 170, I think. But it was 30,000 last year at this time.
Hmm.
So we're
Yeah,
still up there.
I know it's crazy. It's not over.
So
It's something we're gonna have to live with. So
yeah.
it's
But
not over.
people are going out and there's less hospitalizations. And so we're going in the right direction. We just keep going in
Totally,
the right direction. And
totally.
by June 30th, and
Yeah.
then we won't have to worry about that.
By June 30th, I will hopefully be able to see you in concert. So
Yeah.
totally. Well, Rikki, thanks again for coming on the show, and we'll have to have you on again, and we'll stay in touch, man. This is awesome. Thank you
All
so
right.
much.
Sounds good. Thank you so much.